All right, hello. Welcome to Adventures in Lollygagging. We are playing One Ring Second Edition tonight. We've been off for a couple weeks, but we are back. Everybody's in the right place. It looks like that's good. So that's good. And yeah, we're continuing our Waking of Angmar campaign. And we'll see where this goes. We last time we played, we had a fellowship phase, and then we had a couple little interesting nuggets drop towards the end. And I think we're going to finally move on to a new adventuring phase today. But probably have a few odds and ends to do first. We'll probably do a good review of everything that's happened so far, because it has been a couple of weeks for us. I think we've been off for, I think we played 3 weeks ago, but it feels like forever. Like for me, it does. Like I've run so many different games that when like I haven't played a game in like 2 weeks, I forget all the rules. Like I don't remember how it works. I don't remember anything anymore. I'm confused. I'm like, where's the D20 go? Oh wait, no, this doesn't have a D20 in this one. Very confusing. So we'll probably make probably have some sort of brain cramps today as we get back into it. But all right. Why don't we do some intros of characters? We'll see who everyone's playing. If you remember anything from last time, throw it out right now as we go past, like something maybe your character learned or character did last time as well. That could be helpful as we move into this next phase. So we're going to start with old Floyd. Long, tell us about Floyd.
Hello, Floyd, the young traveling dwarf treasure hunter. Last thing I remember is we stayed at the village and everyone was having these nightmares. I was having like trouble sleeping. The fellowship phase, I believe I upgraded my, what was it? My craft. We were doing a little crafting update, teaching some of the villagers how to make some axes and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's exactly correct. And also the dreams, I think, was what sort of precipitated some of the decisions you all made off air in terms of our next adventuring phase too. So yes, very important piece. Okay, next up, we've got Gilly. Ashley, tell us about Gilly.
I'm Gilly Kettlegrass, and last time she spent some time actually working on her bows after horrifically failing to hit anything with them last time. And then I also increased, I worked on my healing a little bit. And
right on.
Yeah.
And what do you remember from last time?
So we actually had an elf who was brought back into town, horrifically injured.
That is correct.
One of the, I believe it was 8 who went out or came on that ship.
Something like that.
Investigating, and she's the only one that came back.
I don't know if you know. Did we cover this specific number or not? I'm not sure. I can't remember.
I can't remember. But it was like a smallish group. Yeah. And then I did learn that she's poisoned.
Something like that. Kind,
or like her wound is infected to some extent. I couldn't really tell.
Something like that. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yes, indeed. Beyond the skills of Gilly and Corliss, who is the wise woman of Eskerdale, where we've been for a while now. Beyond their skills, they need elvish medicine or something like that. Okay. Bottom row, we've got Aurinial. Melissa, tell us about Aurinial.
Yes, so Aurinial also worked on kind of getting better with some fighting, so kind of increasing swords. And now have endurance of the ranger, so when we travel, I can't get travel fatigue anymore. So that's cool. I remember that we had a
recall allowing that. Continue.
This is what it is now. I have all the endurance. So we also had a lead that could have taken us like in the direction of the angle. That there is a Lord of Nightmares rumor in that direction.
Yeah, that is correct. So there was an older, so like the poor remnants of the Dunedain who had settled on the Shadow Islets in the middle of Lake Evendim. Unfortunately, them settling there, the blood of the Dunedain once again being on those islets, seemed to have awakened this massive, strange creature that had been terrorizing them. But they decided they were going to try to head over to the angle, which is far to the east. I zoomed out on the map to kind of show you the difference. So our crew is up to the northwest by Enuminas and Lake Evendim. The angle is somewhere down here. You can actually see it on the map. So that's how far that would be. That's a significant journey. You would actually probably pass through Bree and along the Great East Road along the way. So it's something that could have been broken up into more than one. But it would probably take like a month or something to get there. That's how long of a journey it was. And they asked you to lead them, to come with them, and you were like, no. That's what you said. He said no. But yeah, he referenced that there was basically that Lord of Nightmares stuff. Somehow was connected to Angmar, if you recall. I'm not sure if you remember that, but that's how that conversation was broached. Okay. And then finally, we've got Erebon. Steven, tell us about Erebon.
Erebon is the child of Eru, exile of Linden, warden of Eriador. He carries a great spear that he is very fond of. And last session, he focused on raising his awareness and he gained a virtue.
Yeah. So yeah, in this game, there's these things called virtues, which are similar to like talents in other games. So some of them are specifically cultural related, so like elf, dwarf, etc. So what did you take? Do you want to tell us what to take, or do you want to surprise us?
I mean, I can't really surprise you because you can look at my character sheet, but you're the only one I want to surprise. Mm-hmm. I took Gleam of Wrath. The despair inside Erebon is beginning to harden and turn into anger. Mm-hmm. And on a successful attack roll, my adversary loses 1 point of hate or resolve, plus 1 point for each success icon.
I was worried for a second. Had to be a successful attack, so I'll probably be all right.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
I think I'll be okay. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering.
And yet I'm the only one who suffers.
No, we all suffer. All right. So we touched on a little bit of everything. So it was a fellowship phase. We do probably a more involved fellowship phase than most people do, as we like really dig into it a little bit. But you've hit a lot of the big notes. Floyd's dreams specifically. You also started hearing that there was that tink that kept happening. If you recall, there was like it was almost like you were in a blacksmith. It was like metal on metal, had that kind of sound to it, and it was like perfectly keeping in time. You were seeing these visions, almost like a first person view of someone like stumbling around, violence towards elves and things like that were happening. You saw some faceless dwarves and things who were taken down by some of these elves. And so it was like this whole kind of combat, this whole series, like this montage, this brutal battle. I think someone rolled a lore test or something on it. Isn't that right? Someone.
Erebon might have.
I do like rolling lore
We did
tests.
learn that. What was it? There was a group of.
Well, there were names, I think. Yeah, but there was like a couple, as it was described, there were basically it was Battle of the Thousand Caves was one of the names of the
notes.
That sort of it harkens back to a very, very, very long time ago, actually. Like this is like ancient history. This is like first age stuff. This is that far ago, and it's really probably comes down through the generations, probably more as like song or legend, and not necessarily as crisp as some of the more recent history. Though there are people who wander Middle Earth still who were alive in these for this time. But Erebon was not one of those people. So
I did roll that lore test though, because I remember throwing some shade at Floyd after that.
Yes, yeah. So there's something involving that and Sarnathrad and all those types of things, which is was a very dark history in the relationship between dwarves and elves. Yeah. Okay, so that was one of the main things. And in order to kind of get, so like basically we've sort of come to the conclusion that Floyd's cursed in some fashion. And that in order to cleanse him of this, somebody with a longer and deeper history of that time might be able to help figure out what to do with that curse.
We did learn that one guy, one of the hill folk people that we let go, had like the same sort of chainmail.
That's correct.
As Floyd.
Yes, very similar structure, very similar construction to it. Let's see what else. The Ranger Haven we already talked about. Orphan. There was a reference to a place called Urthod Kalin, which is the ruins of a castle within the Angle that involved this Lord of Nightmares, whose body was never found and is said to potentially be wandering about. But it was somehow connected to a time in when the men of Angmar came down and sacked that area and kind of controlled that aspect of Middle Earth, of Eriador. The near dead elf, I believe, Erebon, you knew the elf, right? You knew her.
Yes, I do know her.
I should say. Yeah. Mendir is her name. And do you remember she kind of uttered something as she was kind of in pain? Does anyone remember? A couple words. Man, it's interesting.
I do not have that in my notes.
It's a shame we don't have an actual but there's a couple terms, Elasterion and whatnot were kind of dropped, and Palantir and things like that. So, but we ended essentially with Corlys and Gilly trying to give her aid. Oh, and one other detail that we should probably tap into again: that ashen gray black ship with the dark sails that you saw that strange figure on the river. Then saw again on the lake. And some of you were assuming this was a ghost ship. Well, it turns out it was seen again, except this time that same dark figure was boarding the ship with the wargs and with some bound captives disappearing into the mist over top of the lake. So take that for whatever it means.
I mean, ghosts get hungry too, so...
That's fair, yeah. I mean, the food just goes right through them. Right through them.
Yeah, their stomachs are never full.
Yep. Okay, so why don't we get started? Not sure. I don't remember my music choices. Hey, them, Dave. Hey, Eric. Zoro's here. I've seen a few people. Okay. We're gonna pick up. We're gonna say it's late in the evening, it's around dark. The sun's kind of starting to set. You had expressed interest in backtracking to where Mendir's body was found, or where she was found. If you recall, one of the hunters of Escrio, we'll say Errol, the woman who was very respectful of your spear, Erebon, was the one who kind of helped Mendir back and has agreed to take you out there if you want. It's not too far of a distance away. It's not like a full journey, but it would take probably a couple hours to get there. If that is something
Erebon's ready to go right now.
Yes, we'd be very appreciative of your guidance.
Yes, it will be dark soon. Bring lanterns and torches and be careful. The forests to the north and to the east are very unsettling when the sun goes down. I am ready to leave when you are.
I think we're good. Gilly, you have our lamp? Your lamp that we all rely on?
Damn lamp.
Of course.
Some of us take snowshoes.
Yeah, some take snowshoes, some take lamps or lanterns. Okay.
Jeff, I have to read at night. This is very important for Gilly.
Yes. It is very useful. Very useful. Do you know, though, Errol says as you all leave out the main gate of Eskerdale, heading north into the brush. There is a problem sometimes with light, and that while it does help you see, it also helps those in the dark see you. So, keep that in mind, little one.
I hadn't thought about it that way.
You are like a beacon for the creatures in the dark who wish to do you harm. They will come for you first. She pats you on the shoulder. But do not worry. You have strong friends around who will help protect you.
Gilly just kind of looks up at Aurelial
Unless, of course, they are taken down first, and then you will have no defenses.
Reniel just sort of swings the sword that she's been practicing with during this fellowship phase.
Okay. So yeah, you don't no worries about tracking or anything like that. Arrow can lead you back. However, why don't we let's dust off the old roll system? If somebody wants to say keep a awareness roll going, keep an eye out for dangers or any other things
I
along
just
the way.
boosted awareness, so I'd like to do that.
Anybody but Erebon. Anybody?
And just as a reminder, since the last time we played, we've got some D6s for us, and
Sorry.
Jeff has 2 as well.
Yeah, see, the complications, they have a much longer shelf life than the other ones do. Those have
Yeah.
expired.
I don't think that's the case.
I think so. All right. So yeah, Erebon, why don't you rip that awareness test? Okay.
Great success.
Erebon, about an hour outside of Eskerdale, as you're traveling through this forest here, you kind of almost like a sixth sense in a way. Maybe it's your elvish hearing, maybe it's your just increased senses, maybe it's just the fact that you're within this forest, and that kind of helps feed the sort of intense concentration. You're seen perhaps determined, having recognized Mendir, but you realize that you all are not alone out here. And in fact, more than once, you see dark shapes that seem to be surrounding, kind of trailing the party, flanking the party here and there. You're able at one point, with your great success, to actually notice what it is that's tracking you, or that's following you. You see a trio of these very large bears. If you recall, when you first came out here, you saw some. So this is bear country, so to speak. And you can see that there's these very large, kind of dark, looks like black bears that seem to be moving with some amount of kind of stealth and curiosity, kind of tracking you all as you go. The light sort of seeming to be again, a beacon in this darkness. So that is what you see. With a great success, you see before anything bad happens, and so you're able to deal with that however you wish.
I would try to subtly point them out to my compatriots. These beasts, they are acting very unusual. Bears do not normally hunt in groups.
I've got my eye on them. If they come anywhere near, I'll hack them down.
Perhaps we've intruded upon a mother bear and her cubs' territory.
Erebon, they were all fairly large. You didn't see one or two didn't seem any particularly smaller than the others.
That is a possibility, but they did not appear to be cubs.
Did you, and so is there anything else you wanted to do other than just keep an eye on them?
I don't think Erebon would. He would just want to keep moving and hope that they decide to go their own way.
I did read in a book once that you can probably scare away bears by being loud.
Yeah, if they start screaming, we'll attract others. Let's just stick together.
Okay, that's true.
Maybe we could go without the light for a little and see if...
If that's
I would ask our guide. Sorry, I would ask our guide if she'd be able to get us there without light.
It will be more difficult, but I suppose I could, with the aid of another with keen eyes.
I do have keen eyes.
So do I.
You're
I said
taller.
one, not both. Can't you listen? You might have keen eyes, but you cannot hear.
You okay with that, Gilly? Turning out the lantern for a bit?
Sure, we'll see how that goes.
We won't
Okay.
see them coming.
That's all you can have an idea, but you know.
Okay. Is there anything else you would like to do to try to throw these bears off your scent?
Is there anything I don't know, but is there anything that Irenial might know kind of with hunting to try to manage the scent portion of the tracking? So we've covered light, and so now I'm trying to cover.
I roll a hunting test.
All right. Oh, that was going to be good, and then it wasn't.
I mean,
Wow.
you've hunted. I would probably bears are not your. I mean, they're not the most common creature that you probably had to deal with. Probably wolves or foxes, things like that are probably a little bit more. And then orc and goblin, etc. So probably a little outside your comfort zone. But the I would say your guide will speak up and does say that the little one is not incorrect. Often, if they charge you or they are near, if you can make yourself bigger and louder, it might deter their curiosity.
So, given that Irenia will kind of take out her sword, and she'll kind of have her helm in her hand so that she could kind of bang and make loud noises if they get any closer.
Okay. Travel continues for a little while longer. You notice that they don't seem deterred from following. And so it's at that point that you try to kind of make a little bit more of a ruckus. It's probably an awe test maybe to get them off your tail.
Okay. I am going to use one of our audience for this.
Sure.
Well, that's not my best. Yay,
Okay.
success.
So describe, we'll say like maybe you find like a boulder in the middle of the forest you kind of climb on top of and help make you bigger. But other than that, like what does it look like when Irenial tries to like make herself big and loud and terrifying?
So Irenial always has her hair, like she has long hair that's always braided. And so she like takes the braid out and tries to like get like a shadow behind her so that she looks like a little bit bigger. And then just kind of stands like arms up in the air, like overhead, kind of hitting the helm with the sword. And she starts like, we had come up with like a combat song. So she starts like singing that like combat song.
Okay. Does anyone help her with this? Like, does anyone kind of add into like the sound of?
Oh yeah, Gilly
okay.
is once again pretending to be a troll. And she's stomping around, screaming.
I couldn't help
think
but think it was
Erebon
like
would be-
ringing a dinner bell.
Erebon would be doing the opposite. He would be trying to fade into the shadows behind in a way.
Okay.
Are we embarrassing you?
I just want a backup plan. I got shot in the neck last night, and I'm not really.
Okay. So you kind of watch a little bit as they slowly creep up, they get closer, but then the ruckus begins. And you can see that like there's hesitation at that point. Some of you have drifted into the darkness, maybe having weapons at the ready. And at a certain point, like the largest of the three kind of gets a little skittish, kind of back, like you can see their nose kind of goes up in the air, kind of sniffing. And they begin to retreat. Erebon and Floyd, since you two weren't specifically busy, I'll give you all a chance to do a scan test.
Scan or awareness?
Scan. It's like more for something hidden.
Got a great success.
Okay.
I got a 5.
Floyd, you notice that they seem to have wounds on them, actually. Looks like one of them has like a hilt of a sword or something like that sticking out of its kind of hindquarters, and it looks like these arrows and things, and there's a horrible claw mark down one of the faces. They definitely seem like they've fought something, and I would say with the great success, you would probably be able to tell that it doesn't look like it's been long since that happened, because you can see that some of the fur is kind of still sort of it's crusty but still glistening here and there in the moonlight. You would probably guess within the last day or something like that they might have faced something. But at the sound of everyone making this horrible commotion, you can see they begin to retreat back and leaving you all kind of surrounding this boulder in this large tree where Erebon is cowering behind. And after about 10 minutes, you no longer see them. And Erebon, you feel fairly confident at this point that they are no longer within like a too uncomfortable radius of you.
Aurelia will kind of put the helm down, and she'll just kind of stand there for a couple minutes and just kind of put the braid back and kind of put the helm back on her head and just sort of nod that she's ready to move forward.
Okay. So you continue forward. So you're kind of going off on this northeastern bearing a little bit, still in the forest, still in the trees. About 45 minutes to an hour pass more, and you realize that you are kind of on the sort of the eastern edge of this woodland area, and you can peer out beyond it into what looks like this vast empty plain that Erebon you are not unfamiliar with. As the fields of slaughter is kind of how they're commonly referred to by folks that have traveled through here, the western fields from Fornost. And the night is surprisingly clear. Like there's no overcast, there's no storm, there's nothing. But there's this bright sky, and in the far, far distance, like well to the east, like you're viewing mountains, like in the distance, that kind of distance. You see like this sort of almost like an aurora borealis, these lights just sort of drifting up and above what you would think is probably the ruins of Fornost itself. 3 of you have been there relatively recently. I'm not sure if Erebon has ever passed through the ruins themselves, but you can kind of see what almost looks like this glimmer of light, like wafting up. And as you're kind of staring at that, all of you hear the sounds of screaming and hooves. You hear almost what sounds like people screaming out in pain. You hear folks like, run, 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 to the trees, to the trees. And as you're like staring eastward, you watch as this sudden vision of like these ghostly apparitions begin pouring towards you from the fields of slaughter. You can see some of them have these kind of vague contours of like the Argolip's helm that kind of look to it. You see others are are like these large, like dark horses seem to be kind of following them and kind of taking them down as they go. Everyone roll a valor test.
Anybody want any dice?
Nope.
Oh my.
Oh gosh, I should have.
Gosh.
Did everybody fail that?
Yeah, we
Yep.
did.
Yeah, I got a 5.
Also, if you fail, or not even if you fail, if you just roll an I, let me know.
No, I.
Okay.
No.
All of you take 2 shadow points. And not only that, but you feel this overwhelming desire to flee with them, to turn and run back deeper into the forest. And since all of you failed, I kind of think that's what happens to some degree for a little while.
Yeah, I'll
anyway.
run.
Okay. You look around, like Errol's already up ahead, like, what is this madness, this sorcery? And she's just running.
I think we run.
Okay.
Erebon didn't even wait for her to turn. He was trying to go.
And you all run for, I mean, like everyone failed, so you run for 10, 15 minutes. You still hear the sounds of like the hooves behind you. Once or twice, maybe one of you looks over your shoulder just to see like that apparition suddenly illuminate between trees, or this thundering dark horse with some pale rider kind of swinging down at you, until eventually like your chests feel like they're going to burst, and you are probably 2 miles inward from the eastern edge of the forest when the sound of those hooves begin to fade. The sounds of the screams of pain and fleeing fades, and you can feel like your heart kind of begin to re-steel itself. Your breath is burnt away, your lungs are kind of on fire, and you find yourself in a clearing as the moon kind of shines down in this empty clearing. A few weeds here and there, a fallen log, otherwise nothing of note. And you can see that Errol turns to look at you all. Her face is terrified. What was this? What was this madness? Yeah. The dead wander these woods? What is this?
I don't know what it is, but it centers around Fornost.
We must hurry. I do not want to be here longer than we need to be. We can take a longer route around.
Okay.
And you can see like her hair is like sticking out of like her leather cap, and it's like pasted against her forehead from sweat, nervousness.
Now that I've somewhat regained my composure, would I be able to make a lore test to see if I recognized any of the imagery or
Sure.
like the armor they were wearing, if any of that looked familiar to me?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Gandalf.
Wow.
And
Save
That's a lot of ones.
your behind.
That was
Wow.
a lot of ones. Saved by Gandalf. Sure. So you certainly recognize the helms that many of the men were wearing as they match that which your compatriot Iriniel wears. And so they are kind of what looks like scattered warriors here and there, but they're different. You can definitely tell that they're different in some fashion. There's something about them that like they've been changed, evolved in some way, and you recognize that it's more likely that they are sort of like a redesigned or evolved version of like the helm, like the Arnor helm, and more like it's the broken kingdom that came past it, Arthedain or something like that. So you would recognize them most likely as like soldiers of Arthedain. You did in fact recognize that many like those figures atop the horses themselves. Hard to place exactly what those might be, but certainly they were some kind of agents of shadow, agents of perhaps Angmar is like probably where you would place it. And then finally, some of the others certainly looked like they were those kind of had a hill folk sense to them, like a little burlier, stronger, tougher, taller, and they were kind of bears a striking resemblance to some of those who actually kept you captive for a short period of time when you were traveling through Rudauer.
It appears that these are the tortured souls of those that were driven out of Fornost before my people and our alliance with Gondor reclaimed the land.
Would Iriniel have seen that sort of aurora-like light previously?
No, maybe. I mean, it's possible. Like if you're ranging in these lands, it might have popped up from time to time.
Okay.
It's not something that happens regularly. It's something that kind of stirs from time to time for reasons unknown.
Iriniel will turn to Errol and say such things are happening more and more these days, and this is why we are out traveling and learning everything we can to see what we can do.
This is why we prefer our privacy. This is why we prefer to be away from the machinations of those who claim power over others. I will take the seclusion of Escadale over the civilized lands from where you come from. No offense intended.
My peoples don't disagree with you in some of what you say.
Yes.
Though it is likely of import to know that such forces are on the rise.
Yeah, and you would probably also, I would say lore-wise, both you and Erebon would probably be able to like draw some conclusions that likely the people of Eskerdale are probably like scattered, distant remnants of, those from Arthedain, those from Arnor. Like they're right within the kingdom. They're human, and so more than likely they are descendants. Perhaps not like the nobility, but certainly distant descendants that haven't necessarily traveled very far and perhaps have lost some of their, some of their history in the time. And just remember, it's been like, something like 1,200 years or so since like the War of Angmar, around there, give or take. Okay. So after you all kind of re-steel yourselves, get your winds back, feeling a little more unsettled in the darkness now, you continue your travel. And again, Errol knows where she's going, but you can tell that more than once she makes a quicker decision than intended, and then like 5 minutes later second guesses it and kind of veers back. And you can tell that she seems a little more nervous and making, a little edgier. But eventually you come to what looks like this kind of fallen over, it's essentially a tree that seems to have been like a sapling that has been like uprooted and kind of thrown down onto the ground. Doesn't look like it's happened recently, because you can already see like the drying out, the withering of some of the roots. And Errol points to like underneath that sapling. It was there that I saw. Well, I heard her first. She had taken cover within that hollow there. The blood you can see, and she kind of points to these patches along the tree as well. This is where I came. I helped. She was in much the state that you saw her in, able to move, but not able to communicate in any coherent way. But this is the place where I found her. I looked for others, but while this might be the place where I found her, I am not certain this is the place where she suffered her wounds. I found a trail. If you, Master Elf, here, heading in that direction, she kind of points northward a bit. You can see the broken vegetation here. You can see the drippings on the root exposed from the dirt. But I dare not take it. I fear that whatever creature or enemy could do this to an elf of considerable talent would likely do far worse to me.
You did right to bring her back was the correct choice.
Thank you. And you could tell she exhales like she was worried that she made the wrong choice.
Oh.
But I do believe we need to take the trail now. Errol, you have led us far enough. If you wish to return home, do not be ashamed.
If the sun was in the sky, I would take that offer. But after what we have seen this eve, I think I would prefer the company, if that is all right.
I think that would be a good idea.
Safety in numbers.
Yes, exactly.
We'll take the lead from here then.
Yes. Okay, so at this point, I do want some kind of tracking test. I would probably take either a hunt or a scan, because scan is, again, looking for hidden things. Hunt, I think, is the closest thing to tracking we have. Awareness is more about dangers. That's not, so I would say hunt or scan if somebody wants to take the lead on this.
Yeah, I can hop out in front and do a scan.
Okay, yeah, man, go for it. Oh boy.
Extraordinary success.
Jeez, man.
And an Eye of Sauron.
Yeah, but it was favored though. So
Yeah.
I think it took the
Yeah.
True.
okay, because we are playing with the
clock.
I have awareness now.
Yeah.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
So let me update your map token. So you've probably moved. You actually haven't moved too far relative to the map, but it's a considerable length that you're traveling at a decent speed. But yeah, you managed to kind of pick up with the hints that Errol gave, like the little head start. You managed to track back a ways. You kind of start to see the signs which you're looking for. You can definitely tell that Mendira was probably trying to obscure her tracks, but failing to do so from time to time. Eventually, you find your way back to this area of trees within the woods that it's not very compact, meaning like the trees are not growing in too tight of clumps. So there's some significant distance between them. It's not, I would not call this like a clearing, but there's gaps between these trees. And you can see as you arrive, Floyd, that there are a battle happened here. Like you can tell, you can see there are kind of arrows on the ground, some broken, some intact, some sticking out of the trees themselves. You can see that there are huge upturns in dirt. Looks as though certain things might have been dragged through here as well. And you're pretty confident you found like the site of where some kind of battle took place.
It's quite a scuffle here. Did she say what they were fighting over? I forget if the elf was coherent at all when we found her.
Yeah, you don't know actually what fought. I think you recognize that there were war wounds, like there were like claw marks and stuff like that on her body, but also sword marks as well too. So both. So, what do you guys want to do? You found the battle site.
Any signs of trails leading away, like other survivors?
Yeah, so we'll treat this. I'm not going to treat this as a full-on skill endeavor. I just kind of want to know what everyone's doing. So if you're looking for additional routes out of here, again, I'll say you can hunt or scan is probably good for that.
I would ask Floyd if there were any signs of trails or other
He's too
survivors.
busy looting this giant pile of gold.
I can keep the hunt up or the scan up.
And do you see any danger? Or do we see any danger nearby?
Okay, so Floyd, give me a hunt. Gilly, give me an awareness. Auriniel and Erebond, what are you two doing?
I failed.
You sound so surprised. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? I
Yeah,
failed.
the little bit of sadness in
You
there.
heard
A
that?
little
That was so
quiver
great.
in the voice.
like sadness and shock. This is not how this is supposed to
This
work.
is my specialty.
I'm
Never
Floyd, damn
failed
it.
to scan.
I would like to spend a hope point
Yeah, go ahead.
for my keen-eyed.
Oh yeah, perfect.
Oh my god. Did I do that?
I don't know. It looks like you also failed.
2 Rise of Sauron in a row.
Three.
Oh boy. Well, these are
Oh,
favored, I believe.
should have had 2 more
8.
dice though.
9, 10, 11.
For the hope.
Yeah,
Uh,
because I have 3 pips in awareness, and it's favored.
And you
I just
spent
think
hope.
I think I clicked the wrong thing because it's
Did you just? Okay, just roll 2 more d6s. So it's 8. So it'd be 19 total, which
Yes,
hits
I
your
did pass.
target of
it'd
16.
be
You have a TN
regular
of 16.
success.
So yeah,
Yeah.
you're fine. And you were looking for dangers,
Danger.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. You hear the sounds of like what seems like scavenger kind of animals, and you notice that there are like these birds, like these like old owls and stuff. They're kind of swooping through, but they like at the arrival of the 4 of you, everything scatters. But you do notice that like they were pecking away at something a little bit further, away from where the current group is. You also hear like the sounds of probably foxes or some other smaller creature. Nothing so large as a wolf necessarily, but some other creature kind of scattering about. But again, everything sort of flees at the arrival of the 5 of you and maybe the light. So you don't notice anything in the area that would probably alarm you currently.
Okay.
Thank you, Farkadev, for those bits.
Thank you. So Auriniel, since Floyd is kind of doing the scan, kind of going outward, Auriniel thinking maybe explore a little bit more, kind of like this area.
Just do like a full sweep. Yeah, okay. That sounds good to me.
And I'll spend a couple of our dice.
Yeah, I'm not going to call this a skill endeavor because there's not really a timer on it. So it's really just kind of we keep rolling until you either get all the information you want or you get tired of looking.
So, and I'm trying to flavor kind of the use of kind of that audience D6 there.
Yeah. That's our new rule. We should mention it here on sort of a rule. But Melissa and I were talking about this week that whenever a player in any of the games taps into one of the dice that an audience member buys, they have to like give us like a little boost in like role play somehow. So either like a mini flashback to like something, or a memory or a thought, like the thought process, or like some extra description of how like this physically manifests an extra effort or whatever. So if Gilly takes it for a lore test, does the tongue go fully outside of the mouth to the side as the beads sweat when she's reading through the books? Like, what is it? That kind of stuff. Fun little things like that. It doesn't have to be anything really big. It could just be like a 2-second phrase. There's just something to acknowledge it. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah. So for this, Auriniel had spent the last fellowship phase working on the explore skill with the other hunters. And so it's definitely kind of replaying, like, I don't know if it's going to like step softly, look carefully, or something that was, kind of part of the training.
Orphan, if you recall, the elderly man, was his eyesight was almost gone. And so maybe it was more like he was giving you kind of other tips for like
That will help in the dark.
smell or something like that. Like if when your eyes aren't there, maybe smell for these things. Go ahead and roll.
Okay, and there we go. Ooh, great success with a
Great
27.
success. Okay. You do smell something very foul, actually. Very fetid. And as you kind of look over, you see Gilly kind of peering off into the darkness, like this almost overly dark gap between these two, like kind of wiry looking trees. You realize that the wind that's kind of coursing through, this kind of cool spring breeze at night is coming through, and you realize there's like somewhere in there, and you kind of follow it, and you discover there are bodies on the ground. And they are not, and you can immediately tell right off the bat that they are not elvish. They are human of some kind, but they look strange in that, like, the armor that they're wearing just doesn't look like something out of Bree or out of Coom or anything that rangers might stitch together. It just has this odd flourishes, and you also can see that a few of them have elvish arrows sticking out of them. And a few of them are wearing like these helms that cover half their heads as they lay there on the ground left. And you also notice that none of them have like bite marks or anything in them either. It just looks like the arrows probably killed them at first glance. And so I'll say that's what you get with Explore.
Aurenia will... Oh, sorry.
Oh, great.
Aurenia will go back to the group and kind of let them
Okay.
know that there's more to see over this way.
Okay. Erebon, I think you haven't done anything yet. What would you like to do?
Yeah, I didn't say it before, but I think Erebon would have been following Aurenial.
Okay, so yeah,
if
you
that's
are
okay with her.
Yeah, you are privy to what she sees as well. So if there's something in addition that you would like to do, you can say that as well.
No, I think I would just like to keep my eyes and ears open, making sure, like, if this obviously happened relatively recently, if anyone's lingering or any movement in the forest nearby, I would just like to try and be aware of that.
You would probably be able to peg this at around within a day. It's not hours. It's probably within the day. This could have happened early in the morning. That it took you all roughly 3 to 4 hours to get out to this place in the dark. Probably could have shaved some time off of that in the light. So likely this happened, sometime earlier in the day.
Right. I kind of figured that. If there was anyone lurking, or I would just be keeping an eye on the tree line, seeing if there's any sort of movement.
Okay. So you're just kind of standing sentinel. All right. Floyd or Gilly or Rinial, anything in addition you want to do?
Looking at their weapons, so these are human. We know that there's elven attacks on them. Does it appear that they are their weapons like bloodstained or anything like that? That they kind of got some. I'm specifically looking for like a sword that has blood on it.
You do in fact notice that there are curved blades, scimitar like. They are decently made. You know that there are, like, it's not uncommon to see like orcs and goblins kind of carry these types of curved blades, but they're usually much cruder than the ones you're looking at. These seem kind of more finely crafted. Not anything remarkable, but certainly competent. And there's definitely blood on these here and there. They're not coated by any stretch, but you can tell that they've seen use. I'll say roll a scan too on top of that.
Not my best, but I will give it a shot. Hey, automatic success.
You notice as you're going through the dirt and the weeds, as you're looking for weapons, you reach your hand down to grab the hilt of a blade, and you feel this kind of surge just in your hand, almost like a moment of static shock that quickly fades to the point where your hand almost recoils from it. But then you wrap your hand around the hilt and you pull it out and you realize that this, unlike the others, is extraordinarily well made. However, seems like bespoiled in some way. Like you can tell looking at it, there's an unsettling nature to the curves and the hilt and the handguard. And you also notice that the blade itself, this is more like a dagger, is coated in blood. Most of it at this point is dried and caked here and there. But even holding it in your hand, you feel like a certain, like you almost feel filthy in a way. Like there's like as if a distinct level of like discomfort from holding onto it. Like it's not so much like a physical, it's part physical, but part just like your spirit kind of tainted in some fashion.
Aurelian will turn to Erebon, and kind of hold it out to him, hilt first, and just say, if you don't mind, see if you notice anything. I'll just pass it over to Erebon.
I'll take the blade, turn it over a bit.
Yeah, and you do also feel, you kind of get what she's saying. Like it feel like there's if discomfort was palpable, like by, it could be transferred. Like you definitely have it. Roll a lore test, Erebon, as you hold this in your hand.
It would be fair to say that I haven't gone very far out of this region we're in, though.
That's fine.
18 success.
Again, this is probably not, understand that when we do lore tests, we get to be creative about how this information would have come to you. First hand versus second hand versus third hand, rumor versus actual fact checking. But you take a look at it and you see that the hilt itself has this kind of curling quality to it. The handle is kind of this dark leather. It almost kind of leaves, almost kind of like pricks your own hand as you wrap your hand around it. And the word that comes to mind as you look at this, like it kind of just almost instinctively comes out of your mouth, is Markle, which you know is dark sorcery.
I will drop the blade.
It falls to the ground. And you immediately feel kind of a lightness take over you, as if that stain on your soul has kind of begun to grow lighter.
There is black magic in these blades. We would be wise not to handle them more than we need to.
Aurelian will try wrapping it like in a cloth and see if that.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
Okay. We are hopefully going to seek some answers for what may be lingering around Floyd. Perhaps we could get some information about this as well.
Head back to Floyd then.
All right, Floyd and Gilly, what have you been doing this time?
Good question.
Not thinking of what you were doing this time. That's what you were
I did fail my scan, so I would have seen nothing.
That's fine.
Until Aurelian finds it. It could always come up later.
That's fine.
Maybe even sort through the pockets of this pile of corpses.
Okay, you want to start going through the corpses and things? Okay, God, you're just I think you need to roll a test here. What's that called? Hang on, I'm trying to remember. It's for greed. Actually, no, I don't think there is one. Roll. Take a point. Take a point of shadow. A shadow point from greed, just for like
That'll-
sifting through the pockets of these dark fell soldiers.
That'll match my shadow to my max hope.
You're dead.
What? Have you? Wow.
I have 10. I'm miserable.
Do you? It matches. So isn't that
Yeah.
a madness thing? Is that what we got to do? Oh my god, it's been so long.
Is it? What's
Time out. Everyone calm down.
How dare you? He did it for the stream.
You do this after we haven't played in 3 weeks, and so the memories aren't fresh, and so I have to actually go back in and remember how this works. Oh goodness. So
you could just take a shadow scar, you know.
No. He's
He's doing
being a
this for-
bro. He's
Yeah.
being a bro right here. Okay, so are you? Okay, so what's the max that you can take?
11?
And you're at 11.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, let's dig into that. Show pass is 140. All right, 139. I'm just looking this up. I just want to make sure because we've never done this, so let's just actually take a second.
No.
All right, so player heroes whose shadow score reaches their maximum hope rating, so that's what's happened, right? Become ill-favored on all rolls. Once they reach this point, they can get rid of shadow only in one way, by playing out a bout of madness, which is a violent reaction marking a significant step in their downward course towards degeneration. So to play out a bout of madness, players must describe how their characters lose control for a short period of time, doing something they will later regret. So to describe their loss of control, players should take into consideration the source of their last shadow gain, so greed in this case, that push their heroes beyond their limit, a character's shadow path, or one of their flaws. Also could be kind of considered in this case. So what is your shadow path? What is the treasure hunter shadow
It's dragon sickness. So in my bout of madness here, I get a little restless. I haven't been sleeping well. We've traveled all this away. I haven't done anything, found anything. I see their scimitar they found. I start grasping at that. Like, just give me that. I need something.
And you probably say this in a way that's like harsher than Floyd usually is, right? It's like not just like there's like, and so when those of you that are staying nearby who are being very careful, in Erebon, you have been probably a little bit on edge since the elf arrived, and Errol, you can tell, is spooked. As you look, like his voice when he says this, there's like a second echo of the same thing he's saying underneath it. You just hear like this, like sort of dark, twisted echo to his voice come out as he says it, and his face suddenly looks all twisted, just like this momentary shift of the shadows on his face, just from the light coming down, that quickly dissipates. And it was just, you're not sure if it was just an eye, like the shadows landing strangely or something. But yeah, he kind of reaches out with this like far too rude and aggressive attempt towards those of you that are kind of sifting through these bodies.
Master Dwarf, these weapons are imbued with black magic. You do not wish to have one.
I've made my choice.
There is a taint upon them.
I'll say I'm not sure I feel that.
Who is your fellowship focus?
That's Reniel.
Floyd's mine.
Okay, so it also says like if you're not really sure, like a fairly standard bout of madness is like the form of aggression of any type, verbal or physical, upon the most likely available target, and they like sort of recommend as like if you're unsure, like the fellowship focus would be a pretty good qualification, and then so that sort of exacerbates show at it. So like if that's the case, like Auriniel's standing here wrapping very gently this blade in as you come up and do this. So and it's called a bout of madness. So like go overboard, Floyd. Go nuts right now. So yeah, feel free to kill her. Like that's good.
Wait.
Now play it up though. Ham it up. Let's hear it.
Yeah, just ruffling through this pile of corpses. I'm just like tossing and kicking them around. There's nothing here. There's nothing of value, nothing of interest. I see that blade that Auriniel's wrapping. I just go over, shove her a bit, blade gets knocked out, I'll pick it up, start swinging it wildly, like, yes, this is it. This is it.
What is
Dwarf.
wrong with you?
Put the blade down.
This is mine. Just pretty much, I found it. Something of value.
Does it not make you ill to hold it?
You guys make me sick. Coming out here, finding nothing. This is it.
And Irinial is sort of... So Gilly is Irinial's fellowship focus, and so Irinial is just kind of like backing up a little bit, kind of keeping Gilly behind Irinial.
And
Good.
what do we make you sick?
Yes, I've been restless. These nightmares. Just being with you guys. You contribute nothing.
And like this breaks Gilly's heart a little bit. And she's not going to say anything further to you. And she's just going to kind of like go and sit back next to the bodies and continue what she was going to do with them.
What else can you expect from a dwarf except to value gold above all else?
He's and at that she's going to snap at you. He's sick. We need to go figure out what's wrong with him.
I
One
would
of my
agree.
people is sick back in that village, and he's focused on a stupid sword, a sword tainted by black magic.
It is, but the things that we have all seen since we have been out here, it is a wonder that we haven't lost more of ourselves before this point. However, Irinial, I think Irinial is going to get this blade away from Floyd by whatever means necessary. And by that, I mean like tackling him.
Okay.
Oh,
Let's do it. There we are getting to PvP. Crippler made a really funny joke. Like, now Floyd's gonna spend his hope. Okay, so you want to try to tackle him? Sounds like let's do some contested athletics tests, shall we? I think that sounds.
All right.
Is
And-
it's ridiculous.
Long so you know we have plenty of extra D6s if you want them. I will be
don't
using
remind
them.
him of that. You're the one keeping track of
It's
how
only
many we
fair.
have.
Well, he's on my
Only
side
fair.
now, so I guess he could use my complication. Like, oops, you
Yeah,
tackle
yeah.
him and he stabs you with the Morgul blade. Whoopsie. Okay, so Irinial, go ahead and roll athletics. Let's start there.
This is important to me, so I'm spending 2 of these over here.
Oh my.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
24.
Floyd, go ahead and roll athletics as well.
Well, use the rest of the dice.
So
I failed.
let's describe how this looks. So Renial doesn't just succeed at this. As you've got the blade, you're swinging it around, you're snapping at everybody. Your face is sort of shaded by the darkness of the shadows coming down from above, and you can almost feel like your armor kind of sort of warming you in some way as this cold spring wind comes in, and you just feel like this sense of comfort. And then Irinial, like maybe in that moment, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, because I
got
took a couple. So I am thinking back to like the fights that we've had so far, and just like all of the things that we need that are ahead of us, that we need to, be able to do this together. And so like there's no, we are what is out there to try to, kind of stave back some of this evil. And so
Mhm.
that's kind of what emboldens her in this. Like, no, we are all there is.
So you tackle Floyd. Floyd, you get, maybe it's a surprise. Maybe you weren't really paying attention. You're just sort of swinging it around, and she takes you down, and the blade goes flying out of your hand through the air. You see it just kind of course through, like the moonlight kind of coming down, light, dark, And you watch, I'm going to say Erebon, since you're the one kind of standing watching this happen, you watch the blade fall down, like it flop in this previously untouched patch of like these blossoming flowers. And you watch as the minute this thing lands right in the middle of this patch, you watch as all of those blooming flowers just begin to sort of, almost like it's time lapse, begin to just curl and wither and die.
I'd quickly step over to the blade and kick it into the underbrush.
Okay. It kind of slides out from this patch, and you can see that roughly where the blade had landed in this blossom patch, there's just death in the middle of it.
Yeah, sort of like how Sonic, when he gets hit, he loses all his rings. It'll just caught me off guard. Some of my rings go flying off. Some of my golden jewels come flying in my pockets. We're just laying there in a daze.
Okay.
So I slowly regain my composure. I just crawl around and try to gather my rings and jewels back up. Just ignoring what's happening.
Almost embarrassingly so, like kind of pathetically in a way, right? Kind of like reaching out. These are mine. Gilly, are you doing anything at this point?
Involving that, no, because her feelings are hurt. So she's focusing more on the task at hand, and she wants to see if she can recognize.
Let's hold off on that. Let's stay in this moment.
Yeah.
So if there's something else you want to do, like hang on to that. We'll come back to that in a minute. Auriniel, then what are you doing? As you watch as Floyd like scrambles out from beneath you and is like just desperately like scratching, like clawing at like his various jewels and other things that have just started pouring out of his pockets or out of his fingers or off his neck. His well-groomed and sort of oiled beard is starting to grow frayed and covered in dirt on the ground as he's moving about.
I mean you no harm, friend, but I think when we have finished our business here, we need to spend some time finding out what has become of you. In some ways, you are sorely needed for the fight ahead, and your attraction to these dark items will not serve us well. And so she'll kind of help picking the things up.
Okay, so you start to pick them up with him. Okay. Erebon, anything you want to do?
The true nature of a dwarf will always reveal itself. And I'll walk away.
Okay. So emo. It's crazy.
So Floyd, what's your shadow path?
It's dragon sickness?
I think. Yeah.
Boy, she's stealing all your rings and coins. You're going to put up with that?
God.
So while her back is turned, you just bring the double, the two-handed axe down. I'm gonna drag it over because it's gonna be, for dragon sickness, it's gonna be grasping, I think, is what you get. I think I have these.
Out of madness number 1.
As flaws. So yeah, I just threw it on your sheet. If you look on your character sheet, you have the grasping dragon sickness. So grasping, if you become grasping, you seek to accumulate gold and precious items above all else just for the sake of possessing them. Okay, maybe you've had this the whole
time. Not a huge change.
Just pretty much Floyd.
Wait, this is a flaw?
All right. So we'll say you get your things. Auriniel hands them out to you in a way, like almost trying as like a offer of peace. Maybe you just sort of snatch them and you kind of pull. Do you just snatch them out? Do you go off by yourself? Like what would Floyd do at this point?
Yeah, I'll pretty much just get whatever piece I can, and just kind of that'll sedate my greed for now. Just sort of stand around.
Okay. Okay. So if that's the case, as you get your things back, you're fidgeting, putting things on, sort of frustratingly so, you feel that warmth that was pressing into your chest from your armor begin to subside. Gilly, you said there was something you were doing. What was it you were trying to do? It seems like cooler heads are beginning to prevail.
She's like muttering to herself angrily as she's trying to like flip through her book to see if maybe she has any notes that would remind her of like if she's come across armor like this, like depicted in a book anywhere before. Or if there's any, like if these are like hill folk perhaps underneath.
They're definitely not
their
hill
helmets.
folk. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't notice, like, you know that hill folk are often, they seem to have, like, according to their clan, they kind of, like, tat themselves up. That's how we're playing it in our universe of it.
Yeah.
And they don't seem to have anything like that. They do seem to...
And if she doesn't,
I don't think you're going to recognize it. But what I'll say is you can observe them.
She'll make notes of, like, distinguishing features.
I think. Bree.
Yeah.
So a couple of things you notice is like they got these helmets on, and sort of like the most recent Batman, as you peel it back, you can see like there's like kind of black makeup that seems to be sort of darkening their eyes a bit. And they have kind of a frightening look to them in some ways. And you can see that there's a lot of various kind of aggressive adornments here and there that are on their armor that you can tell aren't, there's no utility to them. They're really kind of just there, perhaps, to demonstrate a level of like intimidation, perhaps, something like that. And you would be able to very clearly conclude these are not anything from you've seen from Rudauer. These are not your run-of-the-mill bandits that you might have come across or other ne'er-do-wells in or around the Bree lands. This is something different.
Okay.
I will also say that as you are going through them a little bit more carefully, you do notice that there is sort of like this cut piece of cloth that catches your eye as you kind of roll one of the bodies around a little bit so you can get a better look at their face. You watch as like a gust of wind comes to this cold gust of wind from the north comes in, and to the point where you actually shiver. And you watch as this like swath of cloth, this very thin piece of dark cloth just drifts in the wind and kind of gets caught up, it looks like, on this heavy weed sticking out of the ground, like very thick weed that's probably grown about a foot and a half out of the earth. And you can see it just kind of gets caught there. And much like the blade, when it landed in the blossoms, the weed itself even begins to kind of fold, almost like it's, despite the very lightness of the cloth, it seems to be affecting it.
And seeing how it does that to the weed and stuff, Gilly's not going to touch it. But she'll stand and... Obviously, we're done here.
As you're watching it, by the way, like flickering in the wind,
in
your mind, you have a little bit of a flashback. And you, a month ago, as you're traveling along the Beranduin, the Brandywine River, camping one night, the whispers kind of overtaking you by the shore, looking out, you see the dark ship, and you remember that there was a figure that was like draped in these robes and cloth that was kind of flowing in the wind, almost looked like shadow itself that was just kind of flickering about. And like as you're just looking down, you hear the sounds of like Floyd and Irinial kind of still arguing and shuffling behind you. And you watch just the way in which that cloth flows. It's like almost sort of the perfect shape, the perfect movement of that moment. You feel kind of that chill just sort of not leave as fast as you would like.
Oh, this might be worse than we thought. And
What do you mean?
This doesn't remind you of the horrible, that boat that we saw on the river?
Sorry, I've been a bit
The ghost
distracted.
ship that wasn't a ghost ship.
I see that. I do see that now.
And then Erebon mentioned that he saw them and they were collecting people. What if these are the same?
We did hear that they had captives with them. I'm a bit torn what we should do with these items. I clearly us touching and interacting with them does not do good, but I am also concerned about leaving them here for folks other than us to find. That also seems unwise.
I don't think that they should be around Floyd.
Agreed. We do need to make haste to find some answers for him. Do we think perhaps that burying them may be enough to keep them out of our hands and out of others as well?
I don't know if that will just spread the sickness into the earth any more than it already is.
There are no good answers for the problems that we face.
We'll leave it here for if more elves are sent out to discover what happened. You think? I'll ask Erebon, and then Gilly will motion him over.
Have we spent enough time worrying about dwarves when my kin is dying?
I can't heal her.
We've learned all we can here. We should return to her. Maybe she will awaken and give us news.
Perhaps. Do we just leave this here?
We should not carry it.
Right.
Aurelia's debating whether she wants to wrap the blade and take it or not.
What is your decision?
Aurelia's going to wrap the blade and take it.
You go over to the brush where Erebon had kind of kicked it, and you do not see it. You do see the sort of the decay, like the weeds in the brush, some of the this bush that it kind of slid underneath. You can see it's kind of withered. The leaves have grown kind of this dark brown, crisp, to the point where you can kind of crumple them in your fingers quite easily. But it is not here.
Aurelia will immediately look over to Floyd.
I'll roll an awareness test.
That's a fail.
You don't see Floyd.
So she'll turn back to Erebon and Gilly. The blade is gone. Where is Floyd?
What do you mean, where is Floyd? He was pouting over there.
And he's not there, and the blade is gone.
Yeah, you look over Gilly, and he's not where you left him. Remember, you were reading in your book. Erebon walked away.
If the dwarf has parted ways with us, we should not waste time.
He is in need, as is your elf friend. We are not leaving until we find him. So Erwin-Eel's, I don't know if I could do a hunting, trying to look for dwarf footsteps.
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. You're hunting. Let's hunt some dwarf. You get the
Floyd, where'd you go?
Bracer. You get all nice and tight. Let's hunt some dwarf.
Success.
yeah, there's a lot of tracks around here. You can tell there's battle. You see warg prints, you see boot prints, you see drag marks, you see all sorts of things. And eventually you're able to find a very distinct pair of dwarven boot prints, much different than the others. And you do see that they kind of drift off to the west a bit, into the darkness beyond.
And so you're just going to get that sort of loud whisper as Irenial points to the steps, starts to follow them. Floyd.
Okay.
Floyd.
Gilly and Erebon, do you go with Irenial?
Yes.
Yeah, just to speed this up.
Okay.
Come on, Floyd. Holding everything up. You had to go and have a meltdown.
He's being a bro, man. The first time
I've had a diva moment.
No, I love the moment. I love the moment. I'm not trying to say we shouldn't be doing this.
Steven is not having fun. He would like me to hurry up. So you guys are back in Eskerdale. Nope, I'm sorry. You guys are by Karn Doom in Angmar, and you just beat the last boss. Floyd,
Yeah, just give me all the XP. Give me my final character sheet. Then you rip it in half and say I died in the final battle.
you win. Don't even roll a die. You win. Floyd, what do they find you doing when they ultimately find you?
I'm pretty much trying to find my way back. Like, I've had enough of this.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just like wandering in this weird direction.
Okay. Aimless, like you're trying to go back, but like you're not going in the right path whatsoever. Like you're so addled at this point. But yeah, you see him. Yeah, you certainly see him. What do you all want to do?
Approaching from behind, Irenial wants to look for evidence of this blade.
Roll a scan test.
To think I looked up to him. Look how far he's fallen.
Oh, I failed the very one.
Nah, you don't see it. He's got his axe kind of over his shoulder here and there. He's got his pack on. He's kind of looking around here and there. But no. And he's also in the dark, so he's kind of wandering around in the dark, just really navigating by moonlight.
Dwarf, we are returning to the village. Do you wish to hold us up further?
You're the one holding me up. That's where I've been going.
You're not actually going that way.
How do you know?
Because I have a better sense of direction than you do. And what did you do with the blade?
The blade? What did you do with it? You're the one that knocked it out of me.
I did, and then it was not where it lay. It was gone, and you were gone.
The panic.
I have no knowledge of it.
Forget the blade. We need to move.
Irenial just sort of stares at Floyd.
Okay.
But believes
Insight
him.
check. Are we going to do a cavity search?
Irenial believes Floyd. He's not
Okay.
acting as he was before. So she will ask the question, but trust the answer. And then say, if we are planning to go back, we should go that way. He points south.
You point south. Yeah. Okay. And you get Errol, who is very confused about what's happening here, but also very concerned. She does seem to sort of gravitate more towards like Erebon at this point, after seeing Irenial and Floyd fight, which is kind of an alarming thing. Erebon is the one pushing to get back, so she seems to side with him more. Okay, let me just roll one quick die here. Not important. Don't
This
worry
is
about
new for me. NPC siding with me? Oh my goodness.
Right?
Is this what it feels like all the time for you, Irenial?
The travel back to Eskerdale is slow, but nothing disturbs the route. Like you don't have any more issues with that trio of bears. The ghost stuff doesn't kind of pop up. You probably take a wider berth around it. And you eventually return to the gates of Eskerdale. You hear Errol like give out this kind of strange bird-like whistle into the darkness, and then somebody up in one of those tree platforms, and they're kind of guarding the entrance to the hidden village, whistle back, and you see the brush begin to pull apart. It's a little bit before dawn. Sun's not up yet. There is some activities already starting in the village, but it's fairly quiet otherwise. But you've made it back. We'll say you have quarters likely to have been kind of given off to you at some point. Several people unfortunately passed during the events of the last adventure phase, so there's huts that are probably without owner, without occupant, and we'll say that you all are probably able to take up, the rest of the night, some rest in one or two of those. So you're back. What do you want to do?
I would first thing check in on our elven friend.
Okay. You find Corliss's hut. Corliss, is the sort of the older woman. When you come in, you see her like sitting next to this low bed that's mostly made up of just furs piled on top of one another. And you can see that she's got what looks like one of her hands like kind of holding on to this staff that she's kind of periodically dozing off onto. The other hand is reached out, and she has it kind of around the wrist of Mendir, who lies in the bed. You can see that Mendir is breathing very shallowly, doesn't appear to be conscious. You're not entirely sure whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. But Corliss is there kind of like dozing off from time to time. And that's what you see when you wander in. There's a candle that's kind of lit too. You have returned. This is good. Your friend
Has she awoken?
For moments here and there, she is not coherent. Not coherent at all. I have done all I can, Elf. We've discussed this in your absence. Demelza, myself, and others. She needs to be taken to your people. If you are not able to do it, Modan, Suko, they have volunteered for the task. But they said that they would first put the choice up to you. You specifically.
I would walk over to Mendir and kneel or sit by her side, and I would reach out to touch, and then at the last second, pull my hand back. Mendir.
Corliss kind of eyes you as you do this, but says nothing.
Mendir, can you hear me?
You see that she stirs a bit. Like you can even see like underneath the thinning eyelids, which have kind of grown. She's grown pale, and you can kind of see movement underneath. Like she almost like she's having a nightmare, which makes no sense, obviously, because she's an elf. Her eyes kind of flicker open, and she stares in your direction, but her eyes never seem to focus on you specifically. So it's like she's looking. You're not sure if there's recognition or not.
Mendir, was Balavan with you?
Roll a d12. So,
3.
Looks, and her eyes like open up, and she's like screams and like in this intense burst of pain that like washes through her, and then her eyes kind of close again, and she like kind of sinks down, but she doesn't answer.
I would turn my focus back to the old crone.
Corliss.
Corliss, yes. Old crone. I cannot return to the land of my people. If Modan would take her, I would be indebted.
The boy is eager to leave. Despite the loss of his sister, he has still desired exploration. And he feels a bit of debt towards you and yours for helping him. Suko, he will watch over the boy. He was very fond of Mudan's sister. There was talk perhaps of the two of them joining, but that is not here nor there. We will speak with Demelza. I am sure she can send more. Is there some token or some word that we might give the people of the Grey Havens to trust us more? To not blame us for what has befallen your friend?
The fact that you are returning her to them should be cause enough for them to be thankful. If I gave you a token, it may do more harm than good. In fact, it may be better if you do not mention me at all when you retell the tale.
See one of her old eyebrows, like bushy, just goes really high up into their forehead, you know. This is a tale of your history I would much enjoy to hear someday. Perhaps if you return to us in the future.
Perhaps.
This time, do not bring doom with you. And she, has this, dark laugh. This cackle comes out. You can tell she's just trying to lighten the mood a little bit.
Straight face elf the whole time.
Tales of your people are accurate. I will go speak with Demelza. And she kind of gets up, cracks a bit. You can hear, and she shuffles out.
Erebon will stand up, look down at Mendir, and then walk out.
Okay. Do the rest of you do anything of note? It's okay to say no. We can fast forward, but if there's something you wanted to do, as you return, that's fine.
I think the only thing I'd have Gilly do is she'd probably write a note for Mudan to give them about the circumstances that we found her in.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Explaining everything that I found of the enemy that they were fighting.
Mm-hmm.
And stuff like that.
Sure. Perfect.
Certificate of authenticity.
Yeah.
With a little bit of hobbit weed. Just to take the edge off. Okay. Floyd or Reniel, was there anything in particular? Again, no is a perfectly fine answer.
No, I just head off, see if I can pass out as soon as possible.
Yeah, no problem. You find a bed.
Nothing for Aurelian.
Okay. We'll say sometime later, as you all had a very late night, but sometime later you're awakened. Demelza. There's in Demelza's hut on the hill overlooking the village. We can just sort of montage through this. There's a kind of a series of conversations and discussions. Who's going with whom? No one really pries too much into Erebon's reasons for not wanting to go. They remain respectful, but it looks as though Mudan and Suko and a few others are willing to go. They've talked about trying to kind of find a way through some of the streams, the mountain streams of the hills of, the streams within the hills of Evendim, and reach the River Loon and take that down to the Grey Havens, is most likely what they're considering doing. So they're kind of getting their things together Includes a litter of some kind to help with the elf, and also kind of a light boat that they can then kind of carry if necessary through the hills, much the same way that the elves probably did as they were coming this way, you assume. It's hard to say. Unless they came all the way up the Brandywine as well. But when it comes, at a certain point, the attention, kind of comes to you, and we don't have to necessarily play it all out, but what are your intentions? Where do you go?
Especially given the events of the evening, I think it is even more important for us to head to the Hall of Dwarves and see what answers we can get for what is ailing
Okay.
our party member.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So maybe we can travel partially with them.
Yeah, that's exactly, I think, what they would suggest, is that we could come for some of the time. We can help you navigate through the hills. And perhaps if we go swing southwards enough, where the rivers join, we can take you across. That would be easiest for you, I am sure. It would be a small detour. It would not be the straightest route from here to the halls where your dwarf's people reside. But it would mean you would not have to find your own way across the river. Rivers, in fact. It is up to you, of course. It's possible it could be more expedient for you to go your own way. But safety in numbers, at least, for some time.
I personally think that would be best. And then she'll turn to the rest of the group. What do you think?
It does not matter. It is meaningless. We would go with them or we won't.
Returning home, they don't expect me. It's fine traveling with them for a while.
Okay.
We are agreed.
So let's dig back into our. It's been a while since we've been in a journey phase. So let's dig into this again. So we know where you're going. You're going to the hills of the doors, the halls of the doors. You can see it's almost a straight line to the west, right into the Arid Luine, the mountains. You can actually see it's written there. So we'll just call that. So you all need to draw your line, and you have to take into account water. Now, if you want, so like basically what they were saying is that if you veered a little bit further southward, south of where the loons intersect, like the little loon and the loon, and you were potentially just cross one river as opposed to trying to do two river crossings, that's something to consider. In this game, you should consider that because there's not rivers or there's not bridges everywhere, and so that's something to consider. So someone would need to essentially kind of draw your route from where you see the token to where you're going.
We could go a bit northerly and cross over before the river really forms as well.
Absolutely.
Which would keep us further away from the south.
But then we would not be traveling with them.
Yeah, we'd be separating. So would we just go over the hills and then down south a little bit and then over and then up towards the Hall of Dwarves?
Let me see if I can get this drawing to work. So we're going to go over and down and over like that.
I don't see anything. Oh, there it is.
It's like a lavender. That's one option. The other option that Erebon suggested was to go north of the tributary of the Loon and then cross over north of where they join. That's the other option.
Yeah. Aurelian would prefer the option in which we can actually travel with them.
Well, what do I know? I've only been alive for 1,000 years. We'll go south.
Who
So
was
what,
the
your
one that had the
option was
bout of
like-
madness?
Having a bout of sadness.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the other option.
So which one are we going with?
We'll go south.
Okay.
Floyd, do you have a preference?
South.
All right.
South it is.
Gonna just map it out on my side. All right, in a way that sort of makes sense. Okay. All right, got it all figured out. All right, so then new feature. Well, I'm not sure if it's new. It's just we haven't really used it before, but I wanted to show you guys that there is now a. I'll show it to you all. Where did I put it? So there is like a new journey phase.
I snuck
thing.
in
Like,
there already.
what's that?
I already snuck in there and put myself in the travel.
So if you go into the players folder, there is a company token. If you want to go ahead and open that up, you can kind of see what we're kind of up to. And then let me clear it up. So this is some pretty cool stuff actually. So we are leaving Eskerdale, and so now we can actually create items that are. I'll show it to you.
This is cool.
Yeah, so if you look in the items directory at the bottom, there's a leaving Eskerdale item. That's literally a journey log. And so I can essentially drag this over onto the company sheet. And so let me see if I could. Let me open this up on the other so people can actually see what I'm talking about on stream. But yeah, there's like a whole company sheets now. So it's got our members, Erebon, Arinial, Floyd, Gilly, etc. Patron, Balin, a series of important connections like NPCs and things that we've met. So like Oswald, Breaker, Talon, Dylan, Marimbem, the Deal from the Redower Homestead, Thorvim and Thebe, those dwarves that you rescued. They're down into Dunlin. Demelza, I'm just going to put in Demelza as the main representative of the Hills of Evendem. And you can see that there are the different roles for travel. So guide, hunter, scout, lookout. So yeah, go ahead and put yourselves into your roles. Looks like Erebon's
Does
in
anybody
lookout.
have a better explorer skill? Because I only have 1 point in there.
You all figure it out.
Floyd, what do you usually do when we travel?
He does.
He's the guide, I think.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
do
the
have
travel.
2 in Explorer, so I guess I could do that instead.
Okay.
Because you got the same awareness as I do, Gilly, I think.
Do I? Okay.
3 pips in favored.
Yeah. Explorers. on
Although
my
I
list
do
to get
have a
favored.
magic item that gives me a little bit better awareness when detecting danger. Thanks to
Oh,
my
what do
new
you got?
route.
Oh yeah. So I don't.
The armband
know.
of the Mirdane.
Do you guys just?
Mirdan.
Mirdan.
If you guys don't mind having an awful explorer roll, I can take it.
No, it's fine. I'll roll the awful Explorer roll.
And
you
don't
roll
forget,
that.
it's kind of random whether it even comes up. It's all about like what happens on the journey along the way, whether or not like you end up having to do it and what happens.
It's not about the destination. It's about the journey and the friends we
the
made on
journey.
the way.
And I like to flesh the journey out a bit. Okay, so it looks like we've got Floyd. Since he didn't do it, just go in the guide. Okay, and the other thing is you can roll directly from there too. So you could just like if you hover over your person, like when it's time to roll, like it already has it plugged in, like what thing it is. It'll give you a pop up. So if you want to use like bonus die, hope, etc., like you could potentially do it. But I think it's pretty cool. Like it's been around, and I've kind of messed around with it here and there, but we've never used it live. So I'm sort of excited to see how this works. So it's cool shit.
Where's the page you're talking about?
Go into the players folder in Foundry, and there should be a company player. You can open that up.
Got it.
Okay. It's bout of pissiness. That's good, Stanley. Okay, so we've got our route locked in. You're going to be traveling at least for some of this time, probably roughly half of the travel actually, with these folk who, again, there's a litter. Do you have your ponies with you? Do you have beaten root? I can't remember. Did you bring
I
them?
don't think we brought them.
You left them
No,
back
we
in
left
Bree? Okay. All
Yeah.
right, so you don't actually have them. Okay.
Did they even make it back to Bree? I thought we left them in the mountains and we never got them on the way back.
No,
We-
you got them
we thought
back.
we
They were
found
alive.
on the way back.
They were alive.
Did we?
Yeah.
Okay.
You guys
Okay.
got ridiculously lucky on that. No, I think they were at Marimbim's. They were near Marimbim's place. Like you found them. One of them got bit
Yeah.
by something.
Mine did.
Okay. So, okay, we've got the map figured out. So now it's just basically, let's go ahead and kind of give the, trying to see what I want to do. Let's do a little Dusk of the Dryad. I love tabletop audio, by the way. Okay. So, first thing I'm going to need is the guide, which I believe is Floyd. As you guys depart, maybe later that evening or later that afternoon, trying to get a head start, getting a little bit, whatever little bit of sun there might be left. You leave. People bid you good luck and good fortune. Hugs go with some of the escadrilles. And eventually... What's up?
Erebon shakes his head.
Erebon doesn't hug.
When you mention hugs.
No, not for you people. There are like 4 Escardalians that are
Yeah.
actually leaving. This is a big thing. They don't leave. So this is sort of
True,
a big
true.
deal.
Yeah.
And so they're
Very
wishing
true.
them good fortune.
I thought
Leave.
Gilly was just trying to hug everyone, and Erebon's like, nah, I'm
And
good.
no one wants to hug you guys. No one. Everyone's like, no, back off.
I don't have any friends.
You
Oh, it's been a sad
you
day
leave
for
initially.
Gilly.
You leave initially. You go through the forest. A lot of this stuff is pretty easy to get into the hills, etc. Floyd, roll a travel test.
Great success.
Okay, so again, we're just gonna go through this mechanically again because it's been a while. So the guide makes a travel. This is basically determines like where the because where events actually happen, and so your success is let's see, it's going to be it's a success. All right, so it's gonna be okay. So now I have to kind of plan out. Sorry, folks. Give me 1 second. It's just like getting back into this. It's been a while. All right. You don't need friends. You need gold. That's good. Okay.
Well, that's just mean.
So 2, 3. Okay. So
for-
travel. All right. So travel through the hills over the first few days isn't too difficult, especially since you have people with you that are familiar with these hills. But nonetheless, there are dangers to worry about. And more than once, you, in fact, see more of those bears kind of lingering about, but they're kind of keeping at a distance. You see, kind of at one point when you're between these hills and the Evendem itself, they're kind of wading into the river itself, or into the streams itself. They're kind of like dipping and winding through the hills, and you can see some of them are kind of reaching in with these large paws and just pulling fish out of the streams. Left alone, kind of keeping a wide berth with your great success, you're able to kind of see them up ahead and kind of make sure that you don't really have any issues contending with them. Storms come and go a little bit is springtime, and so you're getting some rain. A lot of it's during the day. Night usually is dried out for you all. You camp probably the first night at the very peaks of the hills of Evendem to the point where you can still see downward when the sun comes up onto the sort of the misty covering that is on Evendem. And in the far distance, you can actually see the shadow islets from atop, from this height. It's tiny little specks out in the lake. And late at night, those of you who are keeping a late watch, you look southward and you can see like this faint glow just sort of traveling across like the water, obscured by this coat of mist, and then it kind of fades ever so quietly. None of it really seems to make sense. It's down towards where the ruins of Anominus would be. It's too far too far. for you all to see anything. As you are on the downslopes of the hills, you can see that they are much more forested on the western sides and the eastern side. The peaks of the hills themselves are a little rockier. You can see there's swaths of grass here and there, but the trees don't really stand as tall or as patchy up here. But as you drift down like the slopes, you see off to the north kind of a large tributary of the river where some of these streams are kind of feeding into, and you realize that this is likely the larger, these are one of the branches of the Loon as it kind of traverses the westward side of the hills. So let me roll who is going to do something. So sorry, I'm just going through this mechanically to remember events. All right, so guide makes the marching test. Okay. So I get to... Apologies for going so slow here. I just want to make sure I do this right.
No worries.
All right.
Iridiela's keeping Floyd in front of her. Just keeping an eye on him as we travel.
I think I can roll this directly from the thingy-majig. But I don't remember how I did it, so I'm just going to roll it from my own macros, because that's the kind of guy I am. All right. I need a Renial to roll a hunting test, because you're the hunter.
I am.
You're coming down the slopes. You more than once through the hills, you saw these kind of bears beginning to roam, and not great number, but they're certainly there. And you've also seen birds kind of fly overhead and swoop down into the water from time to time at a distance, with a great success. Okay, so got our thing. You succeeded. Going back. Okay. So as you're kind of you're coming down the western slopes of the hills, you're keeping your eyes out for these different scavengers, these potential threats here and there. You don't realize that there's like this deep kind of drop down from the hill, and you kind of stumble and land a little bit harder than you intend. And as you kind of get back to your feet, you realize that you've landed with your back to what looks like a cave. And the water of one of these hill streams that courses into the little Loon there is, a good 200 yards to the north of you. And you hear the sounds of, and you look back and you see within the cave there's this contour of this large bear that's slowly getting up. And immediately, like, everyone scatters. You just start running, and like everyone kind of goes off in different directions. Those who are keeping an eye on the litter are kind of beginning to just travel southward and westward a bit. Fortunately, like, with you all kind of going in different directions, the bear kind of comes out, makes a big show of things, chases one or two of you, but almost seems kind of half-heartedly. But it takes a little bit extra time for you to all find each other again. But eventually you do. All of you take 2 fatigue for the extra running and for extra fright of this particular creature. Eventually,
what everyone notices is that despite all of this running, Renial seems to not be out of breath whatsoever. So just flavoring the fact that I'm not taking fatigue during travel.
Okay.
Just a little subtle brag.
All right.
Just because I spend more time reading.
Erebon doesn't notice because he's too busy grabbing his knees trying to catch his breath.
Right.
Erebon, you notice as you, like, in the direction that you run, You see on what looks like a small kind of bluff overlooking one of the the tributary itself. You can see there's a cabin that has been built, but you can tell that more than likely no one lives there, as it looks like both the cabin and that mound that it is on is currently kind of in the process of slowly collapsing into the river itself. You can see like the bank has kind of been eaten away. Parts of the cabin have kind of fallen off. And as you kind of catch your breath nearby and you see everyone scatter, you hear the sounds of bullfrogs, these like deep kind of belches and rivets kind of coming out here and there and coming out louder and louder. And as you peer around, you don't actually see any. Just that cabin that looks like it's falling into the water. Eventually everyone kind of comes and you find Erebon. And he's over here. Everyone's kind of checking, making sure they have their things. And as the sun's setting, this is kind of where you find yourselves, near this cabin with these stealthy bullfrogs ribbiting around. Anyone do anything?
Well, the sun is setting and we need to sleep. Perhaps we can find shelter here.
It's not the quietest place for a night's rest, but I suppose we could check it out and see if it will work for the night.
Let me go first. I will see if someone is home. And I will try to quietly approach the cabin. Stealthily, you might say.
Yeah, go ahead and roll it.
Do I get my bonus die for my cloak?
Yes, of course you do.
Oh, that's
a Sauron.
Is it now?
You're welcome.
Okay.
I rolled that just for you, Jeff.
You sneak inside. As you do, you're trying to like kind of climb in this window. But as you do, the bottom half of the wall in which the window has been carved just collapses inward. And the rest of you outside watch as Erebon just face plants into the cabin itself, landing down. As you're watching this, you see he falls, and then there's a moment where it looks like he's in the process of getting up. And that's when Erebon just slips and falls even further out of your sight. Erebon, you go kind of sliding down a bit, and you find yourself kind of landing in this kind of, you're not sure if this was maybe once some kind of cellar or if it's just sort of something that was dug out. And you kind of drop down and you look up and you can see like the teetering of this cabin is like it's almost going to collapse completely at this point from the extra sudden like this like sudden incursion of movement in physics as you slam down in the midst of these old rotting boards, and this is where you come face to face with what looks like about a dozen of these kind of beefy large bullfrogs.
Oh God.
What would you all like to do?
I want to lean towards the side of the cabin that like it seems the sturdiest, just to try and stabilize a bit more.
Okay, you're okay. Like you don't feel like you're going to slide any further, but it could collapse down on you is more of the issue. Okay, so you stabilize yourself inside. Floyd, Gilly, Auriniel, you just saw Erebon kind of just disappear as he tries to sneak in through a window and then just fall a second time, it seemed like.
Gilly will like approach the window and she's gonna call in. Erebon, you're conscious?
For now, not much hurt other than my pride.
Okay. And she's gonna turn to Auriniel and Floyd. So how are we getting him out? This thing is unsafe.
Well,
I'll check out the stability of this cabin,
Mm-hmm.
see if it's about to fall over or not.
You want to do a craft? Is that what you're going to do? Yeah, go ahead. Oh dear. Oh,
Success.
Even with the one. Okay. Yeah, you're confident that like a decently, this is likely some of the storms that you all have been experiencing as you were traveling through the hills have likely accelerated some of the deterioration. And you can see that part of it is just the earth itself on the kind of northwestern side of the cabin has just crumbled down in a way, and the bank of the river on which the cabin has been built is crumbling down into this tributary. And the wood itself seems perfectly fine. Like nothing's like, it's not really snapping or breaking necessarily. It's just, everything's mostly just like soggy and on a lean. And so just putting too much pressure in any particular way, like there's no real way to salvage this. But you would know that like putting too much physical pressure on any of the walls could likely just destabilize the whole thing. It could collapse inward like a house of cards and then bury Erebon beneath it and slide into the river.
So at the recommendation of chat, when I switched out my useful item, I switched out my skinning knife, which I didn't actually use at all in the last
You're going to skin
days,
Erebon?
with a rope instead.
Okay.
So that's what I have on me as a rope.
Okay.
So I will kind of call in to Erebon. I'm going to throw down a rope. You should tie it around yourself. So if the rest of the house goes around you, we can pull you out.
Yep.
Okay, seems reasonable.
Right.
Before I tie the rope around myself, I would like to look around the cellar. Is there anything interesting other than these frogs?
Roll scan test.
Just gonna start throwing frogs
so
out
good
the
at
window
these.
at us.
Make a good dinner.
Oh my gosh.
Lucky got a Gandalf with
All
my
right.
one
Oh
die.
my god.
Because you got a Gandalf.
Wow.
You can see that the ground that you're on is like there's floorboards here, but it's also just mud and grime that's seeping up between those floorboards. But you do find like plugged into some of the mud where like the floorboards have finally given way. There is what looks like some kind of not a footlocker, but a case of some kind, and you can tell that it's decently made to the point where, despite your probable, your inclinations, it actually looks perhaps dwarven made. And when you flip it open, you notice inside there appear to be a set of carving tools. Something for like, chiseling into stone or whatnot. You can take this. You can either take this just like flat as treasure, or you can actually just take it as carving tools.
I mean, I don't do any carving, so maybe I'll just leave it and not tell anyone.
Okay.
No.
That's fine too.
I'll grab the whole box. I don't need the carving tools, so I'll take the whole dwarven box, and then I'll climb onto the rope.
The tools are inside, just so you know.
Right.
It's like a
I'm
tool
saying,
box.
okay. You said it was a dwarven box that was nice, though, so I'm going to keep it in the set,
Okay. Irenial, roll an athletics test to pull Erebon out of here.
Okey-doke. That's a
Okay.
great success.
You get him up here, no issues whatsoever, and you manage to get him kind of continuing to pull him out. When he does get out, he is just covered in mud and grime. Like you can see just like his face, his hair, and you also notice like in his hair, kind of like tangled within it here and there are these tiny little frogs that just kind of like hop out and down onto the ground around him. But he does have this chest with him as well, but you're able to pull him out. You know that this is probably not a safe place between Erebon collapsing inside, between Floyd kind of giving it, a once over for, stability. You all make camp probably a little further away. And sometime throughout the night, as a storm comes through, very faint storm, you hear a creaking sound and then kind of a collapse. And in the morning, you look and you can see that the cabin is no more. There's a handful of boards and other little debris in where the cabin once was, but it looks like it fell into the river and it was washed away.
As soon as I would have gotten out of the cabin, I would have walked over to Floyd and thrust the chest towards him. Now quit complaining about how we haven't found anything. And then I would walk away.
But it's snappy this morning, huh? I appreciate it. It's well made bucks.
Okay. So yeah, just put dwarven carving tools. Okay. So Floyd, go ahead and make another travel test. You've been probably at this for about 3 days, I think, give or take. About 4 days probably. Another travel test for Floyd as you kind of reach this tributary area. Now you're kind of working your way for a good place to cross the main rivers, and then onward you go.
Oh, wow, sorrow.
Okay.
Oh dear.
Oh, that's fabulous. All right, so that's going to be, just map out where that happens. All right, so that's a failure. Okay. So, there. Okay.
Chat has decided that Floyd is now going to charge for anything that we ask him to do.
That's funny. I like that. All right. Then let me roll my event to target. Let's see. Oops, sorry, wrong roll. This is going to be the lookout. Is that Gilly or is that Erebon?
Gilly, I'm the scout now.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Gilly, go ahead and roll an awareness. You all for the next 2 days or so, basically keep the river on your right as you kind of travel in a sort of southwesterly direction. You're veering down. You're eventually seeing as this is sort of like this kind of.
If I click this, can I spend hope?
Yeah, it should give you a
pops up?
pop-up. It should give you a pop-up.
Okay. So it'll let me click it.
If not, you can roll from your sheet. It might be because there's multiple people opening it. I'm not sure. I was having trouble too, so that's why I switched.
Yeah, it
over.
won't let me click on it.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, I'm gonna spend hope and roll.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Success.
Okay. Roll this really fast.
12.
All right. As you are moving along the southern side of this tributary, eventually you make it to where the tributary meets the main river, the main loon, traveling southward towards the Grey Havens. You reach there, you're around dusk again, you're looking for a place to camp. And that's when you kind of hear something, Gilly. You hear the sounds of voices, but they're crude, like they're just these cruel, foul voices. Like, what is it? Oh, stop it. And that's when you kind of look down along the shore of the river, where the river at this point is quite wide. And you see there's about a half dozen or more goblins that are beginning to kind of creep out of what looked like a little burn in the side, like a mound towards the side of the river itself. You see a few of them have spears, and they're like, I'll get you, you little devil creature. And they're just kind of stabbing at things. Some of them that are half out into the water. And it looks as though they're like kind of stabbing away at like crabs and frogs and fish and things, like they're kind of collecting food. And as you're watching, you notice that like one of them kind of turns around to show like this big fish that it managed to spear on the end of its stick. And it's like, look, I am greatest goblin. I am better. Oh, what is that? Mate, look, and you realize they're pointing at you, and they start like scrambling out of the river over the shore, trying to climb up, and you guys start kind of again having to sort of run off. I don't want to do like full combat, but I would rather just sort of let's sort of describe like what we do. Let's do this like we do like our Savage World quick encounter stuff. So like everyone describe sort of what they do as this like wave of goblins with spears, some of which have fish dangling down from their necks that they've already speared. What does everyone do as these things chase after Gilly, and Gilly's like running back to the group as well? So what happens?
Indiana Jones.
Yeah. So just walk me through what happens, because you guys, I want to hear an interesting tale about how this is resolved.
Aurenial is definitely going to start with just loosing some arrows to protect her fellowship focus.
Okay. So you see Gilly's running. Everybody.
Aurenial's determined that we have like a whistle that we do.
Okay.
So like as she's running, Gilly's trying to whistle. The first couple times she can't because she's wheezing so
Out
bad.
of breath.
And then she finally gets it. And and that's when Aurenial like turns around and she's like, oh shit.
And Aurenial, you turn around and you look, and you're looking westward at this point. And so like the sun has gone down behind the Blue Mountains to the west, and so it's actually kind of dark, but you can still see a bit of light kind of on the, like, you know, kind of framing them a bit, giving a little bit of light in that direction. And that's when you see like some of them are like feral, like on all fours, like running. Others are, and you see they throw a spear and like it goes and like sticks into the ground right next to Gilly as she's running, whistling. Aurenial takes out her bow and it manages to like take a couple of them out. Erebon, Floyd, what are you two doing?
If we're in a hilly area at all, maybe like a giant boulder roll down the hill.
Okay, so yeah, you see Floyd kind of go, you know, running over towards, like, there's this sort of an undulating, like, because you're coming down the foothills from the hills of the Evendem down and towards the water. So, well, like, there's definitely some mounds here and there, and you look around, you find what looks like this decently sized boulder, and you just give it a good curl with your shoulder, and you watch the boulder come tumbling down. And as the others are still running, it like kind of side swipes a few of them, and you hear, ah! And after a moment, you just hear the, and you look that the poor boulder has just come to stop on top of the legs of one of these goblins that's just laying there, screaming out in pain. Erebon, what are you doing?
I would rush forward with my great spear, which I think would be longer than most of the spears that they carry, right?
Oh, for sure.
And I would be holding the spear by the very end, and I would go into a sort of an elvish war dance where I'm just spinning the spear over me, and I'm taking very methodical steps. Like, this is almost a routine that can be practiced, and the spear goes wildly, and it really keeps... It's effective at keeping lots of people away from you when you're fighting more than one opponent, and it would just like slice through when they're not looking. At the very least, it would halt a lot of momentum from the crowd.
So they're just running like, and then one of them just gets their head just kind of sliced through with the spear. A few of them are charging at you, but like they can't even get anywhere close. As the spear, like a helicopter swing, comes around, knocks a few off to the side. Gilly, finish this off. You started it, so how does this this quick assault of these goblins end?
Gilly and Mudan that's kind of where she runs over to. And Mudan, she tossed her shield down, so he's got his little sword in her shield, and she finally like draws her bow and arrow, and she also starts firing into the fray. And then if anyone gets too close, he's stabbing at him.
Yeah, it's like, aim well, little wait, you're not a goblin. Aim well, habits. I shall, I will keep you safe, just as you kept me safe. And
make a good team.
You can see like one of them manages to like back away from Erebon's like helicopter thing, and is like looking around and realize, and it's the only one left. And as they're like hesitating to decide, we just like get the arrow GoPro and it just lands right into him, and it zooms back, and there's Gilly with her hunting bow.
And John's all cool in front of her.
And where there's a couple of goblins, there tends to be more. So you probably spend a little bit of time before you commit to a river crossing, ensuring that there aren't any here. So this kind of takes a little bit of time. Maybe you find a few more that are kind of hiding out in some of these river caves and such, a little bit up, a little bit downstream. Everyone take 2 fatigue, as this takes a little bit more time. Eventually, you get to the point where you feel fairly confident that like it's safe. The storm, kind of a storm passes over, makes the water a little choppy here and there, and they advise maybe wait a little bit. But finally, you all do make that crossing, and you get to the western edge of the river. Everyone goes together because this is sort of was the plan. They can take the boat back, and they're just going to actually go straight down the river with it. And when you get on the western side of the Loon, you get in this sort of heavily forested area. The sun kind of goes down over the west once more as another day has passed. The crossing itself took a little time. Cleaning up some of these goblins took a little time. Everyone kind of bids farewell to each other. Erebon, do you do anything else with your elvish compatriot before she is gone, or do you give any other words of advice or commands to those who will take Mendir southward?
Assuming she has not woken up, Erebon would have actually avoided her ever since returning from that journey. He wouldn't talk about her. He wouldn't even acknowledge that she was traveling with.
Mm-hmm. So as you all stand on the riverbank and you watch as the Escardalians with Mendir and her litter on their boat begin drifting down southward along the river. Erebon kind of maybe watching as they go. Floyd, you turn westward and you can see your home in the distance above the trees. And that's where we'll end for this week. And we will pick up there and pick up the last half of the journey and meet some dwarves, which we've learned from Erebon aren't particularly good people. That's where we're going to. They're
kind of gross.
Yeah.
Hey.
All right. Oh, it's good to
be
get
back.
to Lord of the Rings. I know it was. It felt
Very
so
good to be back.
Oh man, that got intense. I nowhere in
cool.
my notes did I say Floyd's going to go crazy. I didn't see that anywhere. Not ready for that. I was like, okay.
He had Erebon will be pissy. He didn't have Floyd will go crazy.
Well, that's just like I have that in permanent marker. That's fine.
Yeah. No,
So, like,
that was really cool.
I figure, yeah, we'll investigate the elf, and then we'll probably do our journey, and then we'll probably leave off when we get to the Blue Mountains. I didn't realize that we were going to have this whole other thing that we had to deal with. That was fun. Thank you, Long, for doing that.
Thank
Of
you.
course.
That was
I got to hoard a little bit of everything. Hoard some shadow points as well.
Yeah.
You did that really well too.
That was awesome. Yeah, it was just a cool scene. I thought it was a very, very cool scene,
Mm-hmm.
and I definitely appreciate your willingness to kind of go a little dark there and let it up. Kind of makes for an interesting story, and I think it also fits really well with the fact that we're going, and this is sort of like figuring out how do we fix Floyd, and now we realize maybe Floyd's more broken than we ever thought.
Than we thought, yeah.
I can fix him.
It definitely makes sense now why we wouldn't take her back for healing, even though even Erebon can't go back.
Yeah. This wasn't even something we planned. That was just this just makes sense. I think this is a good way to justify that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll start up there with a new travel roll, new events, etc. For the last few days travel to the Hall of the Dwarves. Nothing later tonight for either of us. So we're good for tonight. Let's see. This is not a Steam Steel Murder weekend. So Monday, you can come back here. I think we're going to be playing some Deadlands. Next Friday, we are doing Hunter the Reckoning. We have changed our Friday schedule. So we're now alternating between Mothership and in Hunter the Reckoning, the new 5th edition version, H5, so like Vampire 5, H5, etc. That just came out. A couple episodes are on YouTube. Same with our Mothership game, so go ahead and check those out. And then we'll be back next Saturday with more with more of this, with more Wondering. Thank you for everyone who hung out tonight. Thank you for those of you who threw out bits. Thank you for those of you who threw out subs. We really, really do appreciate it. And those of you who are watching later on VOD or on YouTube, thank you for supporting the show. We really, really, really appreciate it. Anybody else have anything else they want to say? Is there anything in particular, anything we got to plug or anything like that?
Good to be back.
I think so, yeah.
All right. So if that's the case, let's raid someone, shall we? Let's see who's up. Let's see, who can we raid? Has anyone got anything up? Looks like Diesel Shot, I think, is up. Did they just come up?
They haven't popped up on mine yet, but
Yeah, they're on
sometimes it's a
here.
little
Looks like
slow.
they're starting soon. Yeah, looks like they're doing some change there. So we're going to raid our friends over at Diesel Shot, give them a little boost as they start their stream for the night. Follow the raid, and
No more vacations.
No
We
more
don't have
vacations,
anything
Ashley.
planned.
So,
Stop hating us.
unfortunately,
Yeah.
we do have a few weeks.
I
so
don't
we're
have
good.
anything.
All right.
Jeffrey.
Goodbye, everybody.
See you
Bye.
later.